Hello, everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights. For those that don't know, this is insights into the mortgage industry, whether that be with influential people in the lending market, the broking market, and on subsidiaries. So today I've got Duncan Kreeger from TAB with us, the CEO of TAB. Thanks for joining me, Duncan.
Pleasure.
So we just start with tell people that don't know, tell them about your financial services journey to how you got to TAB.
Do you want the short version or the long version?
Medium. We've got 40 minutes, but I don't want to all of it.
Yeah. Don't want to use it all on the first question. Marcus, thank you very much for having me. Really delighted. My journey has covered the last 20 years, mainly being owner, manager. Is how I've operated. Became a qualified mortgage broker. It's pretty much the first qualification I'd ever received in my life. And at the time, mortgages were becoming regulated. So I've always had a real interest in real estate and property. But the next step of that was always for me to understand, well, okay, if a deal makes sense, how do you find the money? And no matter how much money you've got, that probably won't be enough if you've got big aspirations. So decided pretty early on I wanted to be a lender. I was told very regularly you can't be a lender without any money, so I had to set about
the beginning. Sorry, I would interrupt you.
Yeah.
But how does that come about at the beginning from a broker to go, actually, I want to lend money? Because I speak to lenders all the time and go, we just decided to lend without any money. But what's the thought process behind?
I think. The thought process is, I guess, when you're young, trying to think about where do you want to sit in the market? You know, what do you want to do with your time? What interests you? What are you good at? I think I've always been entrepreneurial. So becoming a mortgage broker is sort of an easier path than becoming a lender. And I do remember sort of speaking to somebody really close to me and saying, well, how did Halifax start? And they said to me, well, they're a bank. You know, it would have been started 100 years ago or something. I said, yeah, but how did they start? So I guess naturally my brain is wired to think that way. But also it doesn't feel like as big a stretch as when you obviously say, well, hang on a minute, what were you thinking at that point? I mean, you could say that pretty much about any career. I guess the barriers to entry are fairly high, but also achievable. So my thing was, let's see how it works. And from there, you go on, you have one conversation, you see how that conversation goes. Typically, for every 10 people you meet, you'll meet 9 people that say, you're an idiot, get back to your desk. And one person who says, well, let me introduce you to this guy because he might be able to help. And it's just constantly breaking down those barriers.
So it's like stacks of research before and just making contacts and that kind of thing. Or did you already have those from the broking side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite fortunate. I've picked up a network of people through everything that I've ever done. So I actually just kind of back-to-back podcasts for me because I did one on Friday morning with a friend of mine. And I mentioned on that podcast, and it reminded me that my first ever employer, my first job was at an estate agency called Urban Spaces. They were on the Clerkenwell Road in the city, and my immediate manager and the owner of that business have become clients of mine 20 years later in different forms. And I think that's sort of evidence of my intention to do things in the right way, build good relationships. And even though I quit my job because they both pissed me off about changing my commission structure, very soon after agreeing it previously, I still left in the right way, wanted to build a relationship. I didn't know that we might need each other in 20 years' time, but I left in the right way.
As well about not burning bridges, especially when it's been like a tough market. People have, things don't always go your way, right? But you've got to keep those relationships up. The people I see with longevity in the market, the people that have always maintained good relationships along the way, because you're always going to need someone.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always personal. Normally it's about business. And I know that now, 20 years later, sitting on the other side of the table, there have been difficult decisions I've had to have with multiple people over many years. And rarely ever is it about the fact that we don't get on or I'm trying to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to sort of publicise.
I think it's Ramsey quote when he says, don't take things personally, take it professionally. I think that's really it's quite easy to go, that's a slight on me if you know,
Yeah.
doesn't happen. It's just
Yeah.
business, isn't it?
I think it's easier said than done, but I know for me there isn't anything you could say that I wouldn't take as, okay, how can I do better? What can I do to make sure that when this conversation comes around next time, I look in a better light than I do now? Normally there are things that you can improve, if not always. You know, I'm on a sort of journey in my business career, although I've had some success along the way. I wake up every morning. I want to eat better, sleep better, you know, look after myself. And it's all about this kind of constant journey of trying to improve every step along the way. Because if I don't want to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday, then I've kind of had it. I might as well hang my boots up.
Do you know what I hear? I'm very, very fortunate in my job. I get to speak to successful CEOs all the time. And I don't know anyone who successfully thinks they're the finished article. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to get better. And I think that is a definite trait of success, that you actually.
Yeah, and if you look at it through all walks of life, I mean, it's not just in the mortgage profession. Obviously, it's maybe where we have most of our exposure. But you know, football players, football teams, family, friends. You know, in every sort of walk of life, you should be thinking, could I have handled that better? What lessons can I learn from that interaction? What would I do differently next time? And more often than not, it wouldn't be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So sort of started, you know, when I was a mortgage broker, I was arranging 5-year fixed rates with Halifax at 4.99%. Wasn't that expensive then. Got a lot cheaper, and now it's sort of back in full circle. But also was doing kind of short-term bridging finance with a lender up north and some others who were lending on the same asset to the same borrower, the same loan to value, and charging 15% per annum for a short period of time. So I was thinking, well, if I do want to get into lending, perhaps this short-term bridging finance end would be better. It would be easier to make returns. It would be easier to convince people to come on board. And slowly, by doing one good loan at a time, started to convince more people, and less about sort of all of the intense research, more about learning on the job. Yeah. So I knew bits of it. I knew good people to talk to, but the more you go through the ups and downs, the more you realise how you can sort of improve on the theme of what we've discussed so far. So yeah, I founded a business called West One Loans, literally founded it in my bedroom, convinced a few people to come on board, divided the company up 4 equal ways, and off we went, doing whatever, trying to focus on what we were best at the time, and trying to convince more and more people to come and join us. So I think another interesting thing is sort of part luck, part judgment, but timing was really good for us. So 2007, when other lenders in the market were withdrawing, having funding lines taken away, or having difficulties, we were one of the few people coming out and putting a stake in the ground, saying, we lend money, come and talk to us. So I think timing was...
Because obviously I was in commercial finance at that time. I was actually clueless. I'd got the job, and it was just a very easy way to, you know, make money at the time. And it wasn't until the funding lines got cut that I didn't know how money worked then. You know, I was quite naive. So, how hard was that to even be able to lend money then? Because obviously everything was being slashed. I mean, it must have still been a tough time.
Yeah, on a micro level, it's about finding people. You know, this is before peer-to-peer lending existed. You didn't have online platforms. You couldn't go out for dinner and split a bill in a restaurant with your friend over dinner. So, you know, thinking back, it was a slightly different time. But, you know, I guess similar to how it is now when you're starting out in business, you face lots of no's and a few yeses. And I think, you know, fundamentally what I was trying to do is sensible. So that helps in that if you found a property, good product. And I think, you know, I'm really, really good at selling something I believe in, and I'm terrible at selling something that I don't believe in. So if we genuinely had a property worth £1 million and borrower needed to access £500,000 for 6 months whilst they sorted something else out in the background, then you should be able to find someone, whether Lehman Brothers are firing people or not, that thinks this property in North London is going to be worth £1 million. The story stacks up, your due diligence is good, and I'm prepared to put my money where my mouth is. So, yeah, I think it was, you know, most people still want to trade during these difficult times.
Well,
it's not
to as well, right? We've still got to make money.
Yeah,
but they still got to.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I had so many good businesses that I speak to now over the years that were created in that 2007, 2008, when people shut up shop and other people went, "Oh shit, we've got to earn." Like, international mortgage brokers and stuff, and they were like, "No one's getting any money here, so we have to go abroad." And that's the way. That's the way they create like really good businesses, just because.
I think that there's always going to be excuses, always going to be reasons why something happened to me, and therefore, I definitely faced it through COVID. Tab was in its infancy. We were sort of a couple of years in, trying to build a name in a loan book again, and I'm sort of jumping around on the story a bit. But to answer your question, COVID came up. Lots of lenders took different views in the market. Most shit the bed, for want of a different expression.
Like, we didn't know what was going to happen next, so it's hard to.
No one knew. But what it meant for Tab was that if we stayed open and we kept communicating with people and we tried to take a view that things would be all right in the end, then we were able to have conversations, I think, with people that we never had the right to be having conversations with, by just not being super negative, down in the dumps, sitting at home, sort of jumping on the negative bandwagon. And if I look back now, I think that was a pivotal, I should say, time for the business, where we were able to build meaningful relationships and be there for people when they needed someone.
Do you think? I genuinely think that about, like, the last year, for instance, has been quite tough in recruitment, financial services, obviously from our side of things. But if you work hard in those times and other people don't, they just go, like you say, make excuses, you end up with a bigger piece of the pie than you would have had when it comes back, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about it in the summer holidays. People often say, well, it's really, really quiet, so let's go away for as long as we can, enjoy the sunshine, and then come back afterwards. And I think, well, half the country's on the sunbed somewhere, so it's a pretty good time for me to be locked in at my desk. I'll answer my phone, exactly.
We always have a good August. And I think it's genuinely because we've got no competition. Because we know drive really hard at Christmas, drive really hard at August because no one else is.
Almost definitely true.
Yeah.
People still need to hire. It's not like you're hiring. We don't need to hire during the summer because we're just, there are businesses that are more seasonal. If you're selling fruit and that fruit doesn't grow at that time of year, then it can be more of a challenge. But if you're in financial services, as many people are coming off fixed rates on their mortgages in August as they are in September, October.
Someone said that to me before. He said, we're not selling ski chalets or deck chairs. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like, we're quiet in these times. Everyone's still...
Sun creams are... what's it called? Ice creams or umbrellas is the one that I've heard before, but same thing. Yeah.
So talk about that, actually. So when you say, like, you kind of grabbed a bigger bit of the market, if you like it, during COVID, about the communication thing, how did you, I want to say keep everyone sweet, if you like, but how were you communicating with brokers? Because obviously it was tough, right? You had to, and people batten down the hatches and then, just didn't answer their phones. So obviously brokers were in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, you joked about it already, but I mean, answering the phone was a big piece. Just being there. So firstly, just being open and honest and trying to share your views, no matter how controversial. I often get asked about, what do you think is going on with the property market? What's your general feel for the property market? And the first thing I always do is, as I say, look, let's break it down into subsections. Are we talking residential? Are we talking commercial? Are we talking London or are we talking outside of London? Are we talking city centres or rural? Because you can't paint these broad brushes across the UK property market. Otherwise, you're just looking for small ups and downs and sentiment across, I think, too wide a data set. So I think there were areas we felt more nervous, rightly so, like hotels, hospitality. There's no point being super bullish about those types of assets at a time where you don't know when you're going to be able to go back. But residential property in good locations near schools that are, still have supply and demand issues. I think it was easier to take a view on. So, I think just having those conversations, giving people some insight. We were being told this lender's out the market. So it's like, well, what's the deal? Because we're in the market. So this is the deal. Okay, I can see why they've got troubles with that. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Can I give you some advice, even if it's not, I can immediately help you? So I think just answering the phone, giving people the time of day, explaining where you are was extremely powerful at that time when others were just not open for business.
It's nuts, isn't it? When you think about how much extra business you get just from just answering the phone and being reassuring. Like it's a bit like 101 and go, oh, some people just didn't answer because we're all in the same boat.
Yeah,
money's tight, or whatever. But it's nuts. It's like
I think good times and bad times. Those sort of basic principles are quite important. It's not just it's what I tried to explain to my sales team or our underwriting team or anybody to pick up the phone. We've all got so used to what I call keyboard warriors. You tell him from me this, that, and the other. Normally, if you pick up the phone and say to somebody, "Hey, how's it going? How's your day going?" Then they appreciate the call. Give them the time, talk it through. You can fast track a lot of the nonsense by just communicating. I think communication is key.
I always find as well that if you send someone an email, you're not going to pick up any extra information. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just that email, isn't it? And then they're just going to answer that email.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone every time instead of email someone. I always pick up something extra. I always find a little bit where we hadn't thought about before, another variable we haven't taken into account. It's super important. But you're right about.
I think an email should be for clarifying something that was said. Putting it down in writing. Whereas I didn't say that on the phone. Yes, you did. I sent you an email 5 minutes after and said, this is what we agreed. And you came back to me and said, confirmed. Not for building relationships.
Otherwise, that should be said.
Yeah, it's not for build. You can't build a relationship over email at all.
How'd you get that, actually? I know, obviously, you've got different generations in the business and that kind of thing. How are you finding the shift in the way people communicate as well? Because I feel like a bit of a dinosaur when I'm going, get on the phone, or, go out and see people. But actually, some of the newer people, say new clients, for instance, from a younger generation, don't that's how they converse with each other is through messaging or whatever. How do you manage that? Because there's 3 generations at work at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to. I think what I've found the more I've dug into it is that it's about different mentalities rather than different generations. So I've now, talking about those 3 generations, I can see people from each of those 3 almost out of the window of my office here. Some who've been around for a long time and view the world differently. Some very, very new to work who don't have experience. And you can tell there's a hunger for wanting to sort of improve and learn from what's going on in the office and everything in between. So I think it's, trying to figure out who really wants it and who's really keen to learn. So I think it's very difficult to teach people things they don't want to hear. So I'm not saying to people, do it this way, this will guarantee you a result. What I'm saying is this is how I would do it. Yeah. This is how I've got to where I am today. So if you can try and pick something up. So I think it's important for the way that I do things is I try to listen as much as possible and use some of those things to my advantage. I'm not trying to read a book that's going to change my life, but if I read a book, I'm thinking, is there something here that I can put to good use? Yeah. And that's how I'm trying to kind of mentor or teach those around me, which is, look, I'll show you how I would make this call. Do you think that went well? Would that have come across in an email? Would you have picked up, to your point, the information about their kids and what mood they were in and where they're off to this afternoon if you'd have sent an email saying, what's the answer to this question? And so I would say sort of practicing what I preach is how I try to communicate to those people.
I actually like what you said then about it's not really generational. It's more about like the mindset of the person. It's the same thing. The only thing I would kind of caveat that with is when I worked hard, say in commercial finance when in my 20s, you didn't get your head above the parapet through work ethic because everyone just worked. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone was a good salesperson. Everyone worked hard. We all did stupid hours and that kind of thing. I think now if I meet like a 23, 24-year-old who has that, I think they stick out like a sore thumb. I think they're incredible. They've got, with that, because they're above their peers already because they understand the importance of working hard. So I do think there is a difference because I thought it was such.
There is, and then there's, I definitely agree, and I guess what I'm saying about that sort of focusing on the mindset is that there are also bits that I can learn. You know, take social media as a good example. You would assume that younger generation are better at social media, and I want people to get on the phone and build relationships. So it sounds like there's a disconnect there. What I'm thinking is, how can I learn your skills in social media and add them to my skills of being able to build proper relationships? So it's like, you're not doing anything wrong, but here's how you could do better. And by the way, if I can do some of that stuff, maybe it makes me better as well. So like trying to use LinkedIn to my advantage. I found that I've sort of accumulated a lot of followers on LinkedIn. It feels like a good place professionally.
I enjoy your stuff. Like, you know, a lot of it's driven on LinkedIn, right? A lot of it is supposed to say, you do post some interesting stuff, but did you have to embrace that, or was that just something like, because my posts are what's in my head at that minute?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. I mean, look, I use ChatGPT to organise my thoughts. But it's not really a cheat code. It's like my parents used to say, "Don't use Google. That's cheating. Look in the encyclopedia."
ChatGPT is great for writer's block. You know, you've got the idea. You can't express it. That's a good.
Yeah, and look, I still try to change it and put my own spin on it. And for people that are looking at it, you know, it doesn't sound like it's not. I don't really care what people think, but it's not ChatGPT doing my job for me. It's me using it to my advantage. You know, I have a very good executive assistant. I'm not ashamed to say that I use her to help me out to organise my diary either. It's just that I want it to be organised extremely well so that I show up at 11 o'clock for a podcast at 11 if that's when it's in my diary. No, I think I've got better. I've got more confidence. Definitely the sort of more feedback I get, the more confident it makes me sort of writing stuff, posting it. I'm sort of quite good at trying new things. I don't have any fear of failure whatsoever. I want to improve. I'm happy to try. I accept that I'm...
No fear of failure. Because I would say everyone I speak to is happy to take, or, you know, especially in higher level jobs, they don't see... Or they don't see the risks as much. They just don't feel it.
I mean, it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, if you ask yourself what's the worst that can happen, more often than not, nothing bad is actually going to happen. You know, by taking.
I had this conversation with my wife the other day. Genuinely, I said, if I get all this wrong and we plough all this money into to grow the business, and I'm completely wrong, I can still make money on Monday. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good example. If you're a recruiter and you know how to make money, you can go and get a job in many different places with the experience of trying on your own and figuring out it didn't work. Probably even more opportunities exist than... No one's going to say, you tried on your own, now you've come back for a job, it's not going to work. They're going to be like, great, what went wrong? What did you learn? How are you know, what could we use to... So starting on your own, it's a bit of a risk. If your risk is my family might not be able to eat, then you should think carefully. And, you know, that's not no fear of failure. That's wanting to look after the people around you. But if you're saying, I don't want to do it because of the embarrassment factor, or things might not go to plan, or it might take me a bit longer, they're more excuses than they are sort of fears, in my view. And I think it's a natural thing, to be honest with you. I just look at, and I've been talking to my eldest son, who's 10 all weekend, about the glass being half full and not half empty. And, you know, something that is very natural to me. And I'm exceptionally lucky that my brain is wired to think that way. Because I know some people open the curtains in the morning and it's a bit dark and dreary outside and they think, oh, you know, it's going to have a shit day. And I open the curtains, I'm like, great, fresh air, let me out. I don't want to miss out on something today. So I'm sort of lucky that sort of energy, I'm wired that way.
Do you think it takes that kind of energy to do what you do? Like, you need to have that positive energy. Like, it's hard to have a negative outlook and start multiple businesses. You know what I mean? It's like you must think it's going to win, and you must have that kind of. Of course, I'm going to do well.
I think you give yourself a better chance of winning if you go into something saying I'm going to win.
Yeah. Do you feel that you can be? Like you say, you're not going to win at everything, right? But do you think that's that's the kind of the differentiator, if you like, with people about that kind of?
Yeah, I think you were saying, you know, look, I think that the chances of success are far greater if you believe you're going to have a good output. If you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a terrible day, the chances of having a terrible day are far greater than if you wake up and say, no matter what happens to me today, I'm going to have a good day. And I think you set yourself up to have a better day and to deal with anything that comes your way. And that is my sort of general attitude to life.
Yeah. I mean, do you know, we do a thing in the morning in the office where we do gratitude, all go around, say something you're grateful for. So it's very hard to be pissed off and grateful at the same time. It's next to impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like when people join, it's a bit fake, because they have to think of something. But now we've got people thinking about it before. What am I grateful for? But it's nice. It's nice on the way into work to think about all the good things, right?
Yeah, what a nice thing to do to start the day. Imagine you said, you went around the office every Monday and said, what are you most pissed off about? Everyone would come out in a furious mood.
We've got hundreds of those, we don't need to voice them. So let's go. Sorry, I jumped very from the beginning when I said about tell me about the financial services journey. So, talk to me about the time from West One to Tab.
Yeah. So, long story short, sold West One in 2014, and I stayed on as managing director till 2016. So that was pretty much the first time I'd had a job in sort of 10, 15 years.
How was that going from owner? Because I speak to a lot of guys who sell and they've got like a 5-year exit and that kind of thing. How is it?
Mate, it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of good lessons that I've carried through for my future careers. Not something I would do again in a hurry. Not because it's not good. It's just I'm not the model employee. I'm a bit more.
That's what I hear from people when they're selling. They're like, "Oh, now I'm an employee and I've got to phone corporate to get something," or it's just a weird concept, isn't it? Because you were entrepreneurial. You've always been entrepreneurial. So and you go.
I backed myself to go out. I think I felt like I'd taken that business as far as I could. I was being sort of held back from doing things that I thought I could add value to. I mean, the business was fine. It was more about me than it was the business. I definitely thought when I left, they're not going to last 5 minutes without me. They don't know what what I've had to do to get here, and obviously it's gone on to be double, treble the size since I left. So they've clearly done something well, and it was a lesson to me that everybody is replaceable. And if you build a good business, then you should be replaceable. Otherwise, all you've really got is you. And I think that's not sustainable. And I want to build something beyond how many hours in the day I work or how many conversations I can have.
100%.
They sold the business.
Small business is tough, isn't it? It's both in the other end.
Yeah.
You tend to be the bottleneck because you are the
absolutely right
generator, the firefighter, the salesperson, the everything at the beginning.
I think it's focus on what you are good at is, I think, the recipe for success. So I'm, good with numbers, but I'm not an accountant. Bookkeeping is not something that interests me. I don't have an incredible eye for detail. I can do it, but it takes me a lot of time and effort. And there are people that can do it better than me. So that's a good example of marketing. I like marketing. I'm interested in it. Terrible at anything creative. If you gave me a paint and told me to paint the colour on the wall behind, it would look terrible. But if a designer came in and painted it in the same colour and maybe did something slightly different, it would look fantastic. So again, try to surround myself with people that I think are better than me to do the job that I need them to do.
How easy is that initially? Because obviously, we all say that, right? Surround people better than you and stuff. But most entrepreneurs I know also have that element of control that they need. How easy was it from the beginning to kind of delegate? Did it come naturally to you?
I think naturally I am a good delegator. I think also I've learned that, I feel very, very strongly that the buck stops with me. So I'm not sort of passing on responsibility. What I'm doing is asking for help for somebody to, if I can get 2 or 3 things done at the same time, and I'm happy to sign them off to a standard. You have to accept things that everybody doesn't do things the way you would do them. There are different ways to get to, just because, I think often people say, what do you think? I've done this. What do you think of this? I think, yeah, it's really nice. Someone says, well, I've done a different one and mine looks like this. I think, well, that's nice too. Nice. It's not like one's right, one's wrong. So I think one of the things I would say, Marcus, is perfection is unnecessary. It's doing things on time, on budget, making them clear and presentable, and being proud of them is enough. Except that it could be better. And I don't think we'll give it to me.
Oh, sorry, we always say about option one being better than option none, because we just
for sure.
We spend weeks and weeks on something trying to make it great. Go, should we just get it out? Let's get it out,
Yeah.
and we'll tweak it as we go.
So I came across the feedback loop in a book that I read or listened to on Audible. It's called Build, Measure, Learn. So, you just keep going around in this cycle. You build something, you push it out, you learn from it, then you build again, and you keep trying to improve it. I make very, very, very quick decisions. You will not find me staring at something thinking, do I like it? Do I not? It's like, yeah, love it. Let's get on with it. And I think more often than not, I think you sort of described it really well. Just get on with it. If you're not doing anything wrong, you're not going to harm anyone. Invite feedback. Let people tell you. Forget the people that say, yeah, it's great, pat you on the back. Find someone who says, do you think you could have done it like this or said it like that? And if you agree, that's rubbish. Yeah. And I've had that before. It could be a colour, or why did you use red? Why did you use red to do that? No, I probably shouldn't. You should have done it in green. Yeah, it makes sense. Right, next one's green.
Yeah, just that's the learning side of things. Again, isn't it? To know that you're not be all and end all of everything.
For sure.
So obviously, you delegate out what you need to. So, what is your kind of? How much do you have to keep control of though? Outside of obviously like marketing and accounting and stuff like that, do you still have to? Obviously, like you say, buck stops with you. You make big decisions, but how much of it can you delegate as the business grows?
The way that I look at things is I'm thinking about how big businesses can get. I think the bottleneck is a really, really good sort of way to explain this. So there isn't really much point if I need to sit here till midnight saying, signing off 100 different things. So I think the way to do it is you put people who are experienced, whose opinion you trust, into kind of management level, and you let them own and sign off on things in their department, in the knowledge that if they get it wrong, it's going to reflect on me. So rather than me needing to keep track of a team of 10, if I keep track of one, and that person, I believe that person is keeping track of 10, then I feel like I'm, able to influence what that team of 10 is doing without having to sit down with every one of them every day and check their work.
And when that 10 becomes a 20 and a 30, that's full managers rather than full.
And I don't think I've cracked this yet. In the past, this business had lots more senior management. And what I've figured out over the last sort of year or so is actually less senior management. So in our org chart, we've had lots of levels of progression, and now we've sort of shortened it a bit. So you're now in sort of one of 4 categories. It kind of shows that you can go from mid-level to senior to board. There's a clear path of where to get to, whereas before it would have been senior management team, leadership team. Yeah.
So it's only been the last year that you've changed that up?
Changing all the time. All the time.
Because you've been going for a long time now, so it's that thing about constantly evolving and understanding what the
I think the business has changed. So to just stick to what we've done before is not going to work the same for a 5-man team as it does for a 50-man team. If you go from writing loans only to doing loans and property investments, then your chief risk officer might need to have different experience, or your finance department might need sort of teams broken off underneath one financial controller. So it's changing all the time. One thing I have learned is expect things to change. Expect the unexpected. I don't think there will be a time where I sit back and think, right, I've got the C-suite level right now. We know exactly who we need and who we don't need. I think
the issue with C-suite is that people do move on, right? Because you probably get someone to fix a job. Like a CFO isn't always a CFO in the same job if they're going in to fix something, are they? Because they're kind of they're or maybe uninspired if it's ticking over. So that's always going to be changing at the top, isn't it?
Always. And once you change the person, then the thing of writing a job spec and fitting someone into that just doesn't work, in my view. Yes, there are some core things that you need to be responsible for, but if you are exceptionally good at something that is not in your job spec, of course I'm going to want you to have some influence over it. And vice versa. If you're amazing at these three things, but the other things make you worse at it, then let's focus on just doing these three things. So that's more about the person than it is about the requirement. And what I'm looking for is...
Has that helped you grow with that kind of ethos? Because I think I'm also working in recruitment, so I'm a big fan of the person rather than the CV. But do you think that's helped you grow when you can actually look at someone's skill set as opposed to be rigid as to what you need?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see past people over. Look, I think, you know, some jobs require you to have certain skills. So, you know, that's a kind of minimum test. But if you don't have a degree in mathematics, but you are proficient with numbers, you would still be entitled to apply for a job in my finance department. You don't have to have, you know, certain key requirements. Obviously, you need to be good with numbers, you know, and...
I mean, you've got the basic skills for every job, right? But it's more about the people.
Yeah, definitely. Like only about the people. I'd say, you know, what I've learned is somebody good can be molded or changed or can learn something important to the business, but somebody who you don't think is a good character or a good leader or trustworthy can't fit into any department, no matter how good their skill set is. And you know,
how quickly are you at learning that? As in, like, that person's not right for the business.
Not quickly enough.
I'm the same. I want to give everyone a chance. I think everyone. Like, I pick them for a reason. It's my cock up if it doesn't work. But then at the same time, once you get these people out, you realise that even the mean value of the team is lifted.
Yeah, I think that my answer to this would be that what I have learnt more, I've sort of taken on board more recently than ever, is what's best for the business. So remove all personal, emotional feelings towards this decision completely. I'm the CEO of the business. I'm also the majority shareholder of the business. So it's pretty important to me that the business does well. What would I advise my friend if they had this problem in their business? You know, this guy's all right, but he's an arsehole and he's setting up everybody he's upsetting everybody in the office. I'd say get rid of him 10 times out of 10. So I can hardly go back to my desk and try and look for the positives, or she. But, you know, and I think I try to look at things more based on, you know, what would a good CEO do in this position right now? And if it's obvious to you that decision needs to be made, then do it.
And making those big decisions, obviously, you haven't always been a CEO, right? So do you ever get that kind of imposter syndrome where, as every business grows that you go through, you're at a level that you've never been at before? Do you ever look back? Because you said then, I look at what a good CEO would do, but obviously you're at that level. Do you know what I mean? Do you ever get to that point where you go, right? You know,
No.
Never get there.
No, I just think, you know what, you know, I've often said this is the life I signed up for. Yeah. So I'm not really taking. No, I'm just keen to. I think more than that, I don't want to sort of fall flat on my face, especially if I've kind of got these thoughts in my head and I'm thinking I could do this, and then I don't do it. I only really feel like I have myself to answer to, and I don't feel like I've got like I'm an imposter. If anything, I feel like, you know, if you don't do it, someone else will. You know, like, how bad do you want it? You know, and it's easy to talk a good game, but, you know, now's the living a good game. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I love that. Good. I mean, do you know, there's not many people that say no to that, because I think you always get that kind of. I certainly get it as a business grows, but it's good that you're. You're so.
I think. Do you know? Yeah, it was described to me once as, in a completely different context, but anxiety. Anxiety is often referred to as a negative. Like, you know, I've got anxiety about this. I see anxiety as a positive. Yeah. So I'm about to go and do something really important. I've got butterflies in my stomach. That's because it's exciting and it's important and I need to get this right. So I'm really lucky the way that I see things, but I'm thinking, right, get me out there. Let me go. Let me give it a shot. Let me make sure I do my best to get this right. Whereas other people would be, I guess, more on the sort of imposter side of it is, what happens if it doesn't go well? what should I be doing? What should I be saying? What, so I'm just more like, let's use this as a positive. The way that I'm feeling now is like, pump me up, ready, push me on stage, and I'll figure it out. I'm not afraid of fumbling my lines. Like we talked about at the beginning, I'm not no fear of failure. I'm happy to stand there for 10 minutes and stare into the sky if that's what I need to kind of find which I've never done before, but you just go for it.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? It's all mindset, that, isn't it? Because I was talking about this with the kids the other day about being scared of something and being excited is the same feeling. It's just how you kind of word it in your head. Like you say, some people will call anxiety. You get that feeling. Everyone does it, doesn't they? When you're doing something you've never done before, you get that feeling in your stomach, but you drive towards it, right? Rather than that being a warning signal.
Absolutely.
Good. So talk to me about the challenges side of things. So how many people in the business now?
There are about 30, just over 30 people in the business.
And what were the kind of the challenges at the levels? What were the toughest bits to get through? Because obviously you changed very quickly, didn't you, from a 2-3 man, 10 man. What were the tough bits?
Lost you, Marcus.
Oh, I've lost me again. That was a great question as well.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but your camera's gone completely.
Oh, okay. That'll fix in the post editing. But I was just saying, what were the challenges you faced in the growth periods up to kind of 30? What were the tough bits, like breaking through which barriers?
I mean, it's challenging. I think it's trying. I think one of the challenges that I've faced is trying to communicate the company's culture. So when going from sort of 0 to 5 and even 5 to 10, normally everybody sits together, they spend loads of time together, they know the founder, they know what he's all about, they've seen day after day you sort of showing up and sort of living these things. Then I think going from 10 to 20 and 20 to 30, there are people who are sitting out there who I haven't spent much time with, never had a meal with yet. They don't know who I am. They might have watched something or heard something. They don't know. It's easy for us to say that our core values are innovation and all of these sorts of things. They don't know why. They don't know how important it is to me or how important it is to the business or how we've got it. So I think communication generally, but communicating our culture and trying to keep the same sort of feel about the business is something that's been a challenge. Yeah. So I'm addressing it. I try to be, we preach TAB, trust, transparency. And I try to be as transparent as I can with the outside world and also with the inside of our business. So I stand up at the beginning of every month, talk about what's on my mind, talk about what's gone well, what's not gone so well, where we can make improvements, share the financial information about the company, personnel changes, but, it can take some time really for that to be communicated. So what I'm trying to do is figure out how we can do that better. It's not just about me standing up and telling people once a month because, that hasn't necessarily worked either. And it's about adapting. So we need to sort of do different things at different times to try and get that across. It's something I haven't cracked yet. I'm really sort of conscious of, and I would like to, but it's one
good that you're aware of it, though, because I know that's a problem for so many businesses. That culture's great when you start, but just trying to build a business because that small business culture, like everyone's kind of in it together, a bit of a band of brothers at the beginning, and then obviously as you grow, you like turning into that corporate machine that you don't want to be, but at the same time, you need to grow, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of my one of our employees who's worked for the business for a very long time said to me the other day, it's got really corporate. And I was like, you come to work in a hoodie. You've got the freedom to sort of come and go as you please. No one's asking where you are, what you did. It's very relaxed. We're not corporate. I can't make peace with that comment. We were sort of having a chat over dinner, and he's like, well, it's more corporate to me.
Well, that's the thing. Is what they mean is it's more formal as opposed to
what
corporate.
I think he means is it's different.
You don't know what it is, right?
No, what he means is it's different.
Yeah.
I don't think corporate was the right word, but he's clearly feeling like it is different.
But you always use that word, probably out of context, about going corporate, but it just means the business is growing. And then you have to have more guidelines, because you can't turn around to every person and go, "Oh, don't do that. Oh, we don't do that." So it's just
I mean, the other thing I've heard recently, which I think is used completely out of context, is being burnt out. People saying, "I'm burnt out." This is definitely a generational thing, or something that's kind of more acceptable to talk about, and I'll probably get frowned upon for launching into. But you know, getting burnt out to me was something that you used to do if you'd got to the office at 5 a.m. in the city for 20 years, and you hadn't had much time off, and you hadn't seen your family, and you'd worked, 5-6 days a week, or then maybe I would understand, needing to address your work-life balance. If you live
in the defence of the newer generation, it is chucked in their face all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I've got it on my time task. The absentee thing on your phone. I get told all the time that I'm burning out. I'm like, no, I don't.
I'm working.
I'm working. And also, I honestly believe it's maybe controversial to people that have gone through it. So I do appreciate it's tough for people, but if I'm working at my capacity where my energy flows, I can't burn out. Like I could do client meetings 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It need happening, and then I'll fall asleep in a minute.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to burn out when your energy's in the right place.
No, I think that's a really, really, really good way of putting it. And what I would say to people is do something you enjoy. Don't you shouldn't. I think one of the other things that the world has allowed us to do is to say, fine, I'm not going to be a loan underwriter anymore. I'm going to be a car journalist, or I'm going to go and ski the world. Don't moan about it. Do it. Because if you can't do it and I'm not, you're not burnt out. You're just doing something you don't like. And
it must feel like burnout to some people, because you just think, I don't want to go to work. Doesn't mean you're burnt out.
Yeah. Agreed. Rant over.
I'm the same as you. I just there's only so much you can talk about, really, because like you say, it's prevalent and everyone's saying you shouldn't overwork people, etc. But at the same time, we're not digging holes. I'm not doing 20-hour days.
No, definitely not.
I'll be doing something we enjoy. So, do you know what? Again, I skipped over this as we were at the beginning, but so tell me about.
We haven't got to the beginning. We haven't got to the beginning yet.
We'll go back to the beginning. Yeah, first question. Tell me about the inception of TAG and how that kind of came about, and how it's grown for 6 years.
Since really beginning, sort of started at the end of 2018. So I left West One 2016. I agreed to have 2 years non-competes, which is a pretty long period of time. Mainly, I mean, my headspace was I'm not allowed to, and I don't want to do lending or broking again. I felt like I'd earned my stripes. I'd had a good run. I wanted to, as I often said, lift my head above the parapet and see what else is going on in the world. So during those 2 years, I genuinely didn't have any plans to start again. And I was looking for other things to do, and I invested in some businesses, some which I still own today. Some have gone really well, some haven't gone so well. So it gave me an opportunity to continue to use the sort of transferable skills that I had gained in other people's boardrooms. And the only business I actually work for is Tab, but I have investments in several other businesses where I'll typically dip into a board meeting and have a conversation like we've had today. So bought a few businesses.
You enjoy that, adding value to someone else's. I know it's not like they're not your.
I don't think I would do as a non-exec director. I wouldn't sort of do 1 day a month on a sort of a salary. I would, where I've got upside and I feel I can help. I do enjoy it a lot, and I do enjoy doing things that aren't sort of my day-to-day responsibilities. I feel I've always got an opinion, as you can probably guess. I'm not saying to people, do it this way, not that way. I'm saying, here's how I would do it. So try to sort of use my experience in that way. And I do enjoy that, for sure. I don't think there'll be
adding value to someone else's business, even like it's a nice thing. It's a nice feeling as well as increasing your shareholding, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
actually to pass that on to someone else is a nice.
It's also a free hit. You get to learn,
Yeah.
off somebody else's. It's not critical. It's more like, I'm definitely on, this path to just keep learning as much as I can. So if I can learn from other people's businesses, they get something from me, I get something from them. Then I think I do enjoy that. So 2008.
This podcast, it is
Yeah.
a value add to the industry, but to me, it's invaluable because I get to speak
Yeah,
to
for sure.
great businessmen every day, and I'm running a business.
Yeah.
So it's a double win, isn't it? You try,
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
but at the same time, you get more product.
Yeah, hence it doesn't feel like a job to you. You're not thinking, oh, bloody hell, I've got this tab guy to interview. You're thinking...
Learning, isn't it? I take so much from this, and hopefully that's why people listen, right? Because that's the whole point, isn't it? It's taking a little nugget from everyone. And, getting it right. I've kept you way over. Are we doing an hour?
Fine. I've done an hour.
Oh, well. I've still been running the got past.
We still haven't started yet. Where are you based, Marcus?
Southampton.
Southampton. Fine. We should do it face to face next time. I think would be good to carry on, but my diary says I need to move on.
Of course. I appreciate that as well. So if people want to get hold of you or your guys at Tab, like I said, we've hardly scratched the surface today, but it has been genuinely great talking to you.
Thank you.
I know it was from just the way you come across online and that kind of thing. I just think it's always going to be interesting, but hopefully interesting for everyone else as well. Because I've just been sat nodding. If anyone want to get hold of you or the guys at Tab, whether that be brokers or whether that be people that just want to speak to you industry-wise, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Ask recruiters because they're pretty good at getting hold of me. They're all over me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's pretty good at the moment. Obviously, email directly dk@tabhq.com. So my initials, Duncan Kreeger, dk@tabhq.com. And generally sort of email, WhatsApp, DM, whatever you fancy. I tend to try not to miss anything. Love to hear, and on the theme of today's discussion, doesn't just have to be well done, good podcast. Anything that you didn't agree with, I'm interested in too.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for your time today. Like I said, I did say half an hour, and I know we've been an hour, but it has been very interesting. So what I will do, well, thank you everyone for listening. I'm watching on YouTube, and thank you again for your time, Duncan. I really appreciate it.
See you soon. Take care, Marcus.